Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Perfect, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So, welcome to Painting Through the Pandemic. I'm Shauna Sue. I own Crooked Door Studio in Uptown Marysville, Ohio. Super excited to be here. Physical studio is still closed, been closed since mid-March. So, we're going to continue this as long as the pandemic continues to rage on. So, I'm so happy to see all of you here. We've not had a class this big in some time, and that makes my heart happy because, well, happy and sad. Makes me happy because I know you're staying home, staying safe, right? You're not out and about. Makes me sad because that means we're still in the thick of this whole debacle that is COVID-19. But we're not going to talk about that anymore. We're going to paint tonight. You'll see in the chat box, you received a file, like there's a file there. I've never done that before. That's the picture that we're going to paint tonight. So if you want to open that, I also have it here beside me. I like to have it to reference. And you can see there's two of me. One is me on video. The other me is my laptop, but you can see the picture there too. Oh, thanks, Orsina family. Makes me happy. I'm glad you're here. So, let's take a big deep breath. We're all going through stuff right now. We're going to breathe it out, right? Tonight's going to be good. So we're going to run through our supply list. First things first, I have my inspiration painting here. I've got it on my tablet here. It's kind of hard to see, but there he is. I like to have something to reference. So take a moment. And if you click on the event picture, you should be able to download that picture to have it just to reference. But like I said, the other me on here, you can see it there also. It has words in front of it, but it's still there to give you a little bit of a reference. With that said, thank you, Baby Yoda. I saw you're on here tonight, ready to paint. Don't get paint in your beard. That would be tragic. Oh, Baby Yoda. Sorry, ADD is strong tonight. It's pretty strong. Okay, so we're going to try and focus and stick with it. So we have our inspiration painting. I say that so you know it's just an inspiration picture. It's not mine. It's something we just found on Pinterest. So mine won't look like that. Yours won't look like that. It will be your version of that. So take liberties, do whatever makes you happy tonight. I'll try and stick with it as close as possible, but it's okay if yours is different. That's what art's about, right? Expressing ourselves, and everybody expresses themselves differently. So I am recording tonight. So this recording will be available on YouTube either later tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on my internet's cooperation. So let's go through our supplies. First things first, if you got paint from me, and I'm sure you're probably all using relatively the same paint. It's acrylic. Oh, I put it in the picture. I put it in the chat feature. There's a file that you should be able to click on, or go to the Facebook event, and it's the picture for the event. If you click on that picture, it'll show you the full size picture, and you should have it there. So the paint that we're using is acrylic paint, water-based, you're welcome, water-based, water-soluble. If you get it on your clothes and it dries, it's a real bear to get out. So we're going to try to not do that. That's why make sure you have an old t-shirt on. I have an apron. I see a lot of you have your studio aprons on. If you do get paint on you and you notice it right away, if you get it on your clothing, you should be able to wash it out real quick with a little bit of warm water, a little bit soapy warm water. If you have paint on you and you notice it later after it's already dried, Murphy's oil soap. Leave it soak overnight in Murphy's oil soap. It's your friend. I just noticed on my shirt says death. That's not very holiday-ish, is it? It actually says death before decaf. You couldn't tell that about me, could you? That I don't drink decaf. Okay, so paint shirt, apron. Make sure, since we're all painting at home, make sure, look around, make sure you don't have anything that you would be concerned about getting paint on. It's really easy when we're painting to flick off the edge of the canvas and accidentally splatter paint. So take a moment, look around, make sure your surroundings are secure, that you're not concerned you're going to flick paint someplace that you might have to struggle with cleaning up later. Okay. All right. So I have a canvas. The canvas I have is a 16 by 20 stretched canvas. You got supplies from the studio. That's what you have. It's stretched because it's wrapped around, stretched, and stapled on the back. I like these canvases because the first thing we usually do is paint the background. It's really nice when you paint the background to wrap around and paint your edges too. That way your painting wraps all the way around. You don't have to frame it when you're done. Now you don't have to do that, but I like to do that. That way it's finished. Looks like my painting is wrapped all the way around. Then I can just set it up wherever it makes me happy and it's done. Okay. I usually say at this point, let's decide if you're going to do this painting vertical or landscape. I think it makes the most sense to do this one vertical. You could do it however you want. Think about where you're going to put this painting when it's done and what that space will accommodate. As I'm saying, I would do this vertical. This would be super cute if you did it landscape, if you wanted to take a lot of time to work on it, and you did a family of little gnome elves. We're going to call him a gnome. If you did a family of gnomes, that would be super cute. But I'm going to keep mine vertical. I'm going to do one big gnome on it, and we'll see how that goes. I have a cup that's halfway full with cool or cold water, never warm or hot, always cool or cold. Okay. And I just use an old mason jar. I'm less likely to knock it over because it's heavy. I've got a stack of paper towels underneath my jar that I can clean my brushes off on. Let's talk about brushes. Okay. So you need some kind of a big brush for your background. I love this big fat oval wash brush, just whatever your biggest brush is that you have, because we're going to do big broad strokes on that background. Okay. So I have that. You're also going to want some kind of a medium brush. I have this medium flat guy, right? Just something smaller to work with. And then some kind of a liner brush. He doesn't look very pointy, but when I get him wet, he'll be nice and pointy. I know a lot of you, when you got supplies from the studio, you got fan brushes. If you have a fan brush, you don't need a fan brush tonight, but if you have one, we might play with it. I thought it would be fun to play in the beard with a fan brush. So I'll have that just in case I decide. So I'm going to take my fan brush, set it down. My other brushes that I'm going to use, I'm going to take those. I'm going to put them in my water cup, leave them there. Leave them camp out in there. I had so many things I was going to say about that, and I'm just not going to. Leave them camp out in there. That way, when you pull a brush out, it's clean from the water-ish, right? When you're done with it, it goes back in there with its friends, so it doesn't dry out and have like crusty paint in it later, okay? So I always leave my brushes in there until I'm done painting. Then I'll take the whole mess to the sink and clean it out. All right, something else I keep in my paint bag. I have a couple other random brushes, just for giggles. I keep a paint pen in my bag also. I like to sign my painting with a paint pen because I'm really bad at signing with a brush. You may or may not have one. It's something I have. And paint. Let's talk about paint. Okay, so my green's it's being a little weird. He's a little separated. I'm not worried about it. He'll be fine. For what I'm going to use that green for, he'll be fine. So I have white. I have a lot of white. I have bright red. I don't think your red tonight matters. We talk about bright red versus fire red. Either red will do tonight. I'm using phthalo green, which is, it's a nice dark, almost a turquoisey green. That's how we're going to get our background color. I have burnt umber, just a nice brown, and black, Mars black. That's what I have. That's what I'm working with tonight. I think one of the most important things to remember tonight, if you look at our original painting, we're going to do the background first, and then we're going to start layering things on top. At the very end, we're going to want a little bit of clean white left to be able to do the little heart that hangs on his hat, to be able to do some extra swipes in his beard, the little bit of white on his nose, a little white on his shoes. So make sure you don't mess up all your white as you paint through tonight. Make sure you save back a little bit of clean white for the very end, okay? All right, I do believe, let's get started. I'm ready to paint. So remember, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat box. I'm trying to keep an eye on that. I have everyone muted so the screen stays on me. That helps with the recording, okay? Let's do this. I'm gonna paint my background first. Find your biggest brush, squish it around in there, and I'm gonna use my paint almost like watercolor tonight. I'm gonna thin it down with water. I love the way that looks in the background. It kind of gives it more texture. I'm going to use green, maybe every now and then a tiny bit of brown, and maybe every now and then just a tiny, tiny bit of white. So I've got a wet brush. I'm going to take a little bit of this green. Oh, you can see how watery that is. And I'm going to go side to side. Again, using it real thin, almost like watercolor. Maybe a little bit of brown. Side to side. Let's cover that whole background. Remember, anytime you take paint, always in the edge of your color, never the middle of the puddle, always in the edge. Okay. So I have green, brown, little bit of white, and every now and then back in my water cup, get a little bit of water on my brush, little more paint, a little green, a little brown, a little white, side to side. Oh, I love the texture that's given us in the background. Don't forget your edges. This takes a very, very tiny bit of paint, right? Tiny, tiny bit of paint. And this is the part of the class where I remind everybody to breathe, right? Let go of whatever you're holding on to right now. And for this little period in time, let's just paint, right? Breathe it all out. It's funny, I would never normally paint like this. I love using a lot of paint, and I love the texture that a lot of paint gives me. So this is really different for me. I like it though. Using it more like watercolor, less like acrylic, less like oil. I learned how to paint in oil, and you can really layer oil up. So I think that's why I like to paint with acrylic paint with just bunches of it. So this is different for me tonight. This is good, right? All doing different things, learning different things. All right, we're gonna paint that whole background. I like to make sure everybody knows the direction we're going. So we're going to paint the whole background. We're going to give it a little bit of time to dry. So you might find your blow dryer. And then we're going to start layering things on. We're going to put the shoes on. We're going to jump around a lot. We're going to do the shoes. While the shoes are drying, we'll put a face on. While the face is drying, we'll hop up to the hat. Then we'll go to the beard, then back down to the shoes. We're just going to jump around a lot tonight. So I think really our only drying time will be once this background is done. So again, green, tiny brown, tiny white, side to side. Every now and then back in the water cup. And edges, don't forget your edges. It's easier to get them now than it is to try to match them later, okay? So get those edges. If you try to paint them after the fact, they never really match up. So you want that color that you have on your brush while you have it, just get on over there. Okay, little water, little green, little brown, little white, side to side. You'll have to comment in the chat section. Let me know if you're listening to Christmas music, or if you feel it's too soon, or if you're watching a Christmas movie. I'm usually pretty firm about we don't have Christmas movies till after Thanksgiving, but it's 2020, man. I know, Billy. I was just gonna say it's 2020, man. All the rules are off. You do what makes you happy, right? And Christmas Vacation right now makes me happy. I'm gonna do it. Because in 2020, we all need to find that little bit of happiness wherever we can. Ooh, this background looks rough, but it's the texture that I want to then lay my gnome on top of. Good job, Kelsey. You get that Christmas music, sister. Ooh, holiday pops on Sirius. I need to see what Pandora has in store this year for my holiday music. Oh, that's getting a little dark. Water that down a little bit. Okay, I like to be respectful of everyone's time. Let's get that whole background done. By the time you're done with this step, your whole canvas will be covered. So about 7:30, I'll check in with everybody. We might not be ready to move on, but I'll check in with everybody about 7:30. So I'm going to finish my background. Ooh, today's Christmas hits. I like it. Thank you, Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda's so insightful. So we want this whole thing to be covered and pretty dry before we move on. So 7:30, about 10 minutes, I'll check in with everyone. Ooh, I like taking that little tiny, tiny, tiny bit of white and shushing some back over there. Oh, that's there's really no right or wrong with this background. Ooh, a documentary about the Challenger. Andrew, I just saw your comment. I love a good NASA documentary. Pre-COVID, my husband and I went to COSI, and they had I don't remember which one it was, but it was like a behind the scenes. It wasn't Challenger, but it was like a launch, and it was on the big screen, and the whole theater shook. And it was amazing. It was fantastic. So remember, as you go down your canvas, every now and then, tip in that water cup, right? And cover that whole canvas. Edges, don't forget your edges. Okay. So I'm at the point I have my whole canvas covered. I think I'm going to disappear and go to the blow dryer. Oh no. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrea. Yep, quick puppy prayer. You know, it's hard when they get old, isn't it? Gertrude breaks my heart about every other day because not only is she special needs, she 8, 8.5, and her being special needs lessens her life expectancy. So I'm sorry. I'm saying a little puppy prayer for you. Okay. I am going to pop that brush in my water cup, and I'm going to disappear to the blow dryer. And again, I'll check in with everybody about 7:30, and we'll see how we're doing. Oh, Bets, the chickens are good. Thanks for asking. I'm glad to see you here tonight. The chickens. Oh, the chickens. We need to talk about the chickens. I love them. They stress me out. Amber taught the girls how to get out of the fence. It's a struggle. It's a chicken struggle, but they're good. I worry about them because they shouldn't be outside the fence. But okay, I'm going to go to the blow dryer. I'll be back. Okay. That's that dried pretty fast because the paint was so thin. It's about four-ish minutes. I'll check in and you can let me know if you're ready or if we need to pause for another few minutes. Oh, so Bets, the chickens are good. I saw you said Diane's there with you, and Diane's the one that asked. Um, Chickens are good. So Amber is she was my trouble child, and I say was because Amber is now gone. She was my troublemaker. She was the one that screamed. She was the one that hoarded eggs. We found 17 eggs that she had been hoarding. Oh, she was such a struggle. And she would just willy-nilly hop the fence and then carry on about her business. But she wasn't quiet about it. And then we noticed we have a Cooper's hawk that's been frequenting the chicken yard. And I think we don't know for sure, but she's gone. She became victim of a Cooper's hawk. And it doesn't make me too terribly sad because she was teaching the other girls bad habits. But before Amber disappeared, she taught one of our Buckeye girls that bad habit. So Lucille is now hopping the fence, going on walkabout. Oh, Phyllis, stand by. I'll tell you about Phyllis. So I love our Buckeye chickens. Their personalities are just ridiculous, all the different personalities that they have. Amber was always kind of nasty. That's why I'm not really sad she's gone. I like to call her an independent woman. This is funny too. For those of you that haven't joined us before, I'm going to talk about my chickens all night. It's just weird. We'll talk about food here in a little bit. So our Buckeyes are so incredibly, we have 6 of them, 6 Buckeye chickens. They are so incredibly sweet and innocent and naive. And I can't believe they haven't been eaten by a predator yet. But Amber taught Lucille, one of our Buckeyes, how to hop the fence. And when I go to put Lucille back in, all I have to do is walk up to her out in the yard. I know, right? She should view me as a predator, right? Because I'm big, I'm coming to try to get her. And I do this, and she hops in my arms. Not real smart, baby girl, but makes it easier for me to put her back in. But that means she's prime for a predator. So, okay, Phyllis. I see somebody ask about Phyllis. Sweet Phyllis. Phyllis is a Polish. Phyllis has this ridiculous hairdo. She looks like Phyllis Diller. If you don't know who that is, you have to Google it because Phyllis very much looks like Phyllis Diller. She has all this big, ridiculous, my husband gets mad when I call it hair, feathers, just these big, she can't see. So she bumps into stuff a lot because her feathers are so massive. They block her peripheral vision. We got them the seed block. She was standing, the other girls come over and peck on the seed block. The seed block is probably 12 inches by 12 inches. I mean, it's this cube. Phyllis was standing on top of the seed block, trying to peck down at the bottom underneath the seed block. And I thought, oh, Phyllis, you really do things your own way, sister. I just stood and watched her. The other girls are walking around like, why is she on the seed block? She's Phyllis. Okay, it's 7:30. That's probably enough chicken talk. I'm looking over. It looks like I see people still drying frantically. Let's take, how about 5 more minutes? 7:35, we'll move on. I see everybody like waving, like frantically drying their canvases. 7:35. The part I'm most concerned about is this middle section right here where we're going to put the face. So if nothing else is dry, that's fine. I'm most concerned about the face right there. Oh yeah, Andrea, I need to see your rooster at the end that you painted. So we still have 2 roosters. We rehomed one. We had 3. We rehomed Vern. He went to live with a friend of ours, and we still have 2 roosters, and they're getting along marvelously, which I didn't think was a thing, but it is. So, baby Oda, I just saw your comment about Amber. Oh no, Amber. I know. I like to think she went to live on a farm someplace else. She went to a happier chicken place, someplace she wasn't screaming all the time. She literally said, I remember saying, about 3 more minutes and we'll move on. I remember saying, chickens make such the sweetest little noises, they're little cooing noises. And then Amber started talking, and she sounded like a pterodactyl eating a baby. It was the most awful sound. Oh, there may be a bounty for her. Oh, Amber. We'll let her explore. We'll let her travel. She's a wanderer. Okay, about 3 more minutes. And again, the part we're most concerned about is right here in the middle where that face is going to go. Oh, hi Tara. He's good. He's good. Um he's on quarantine right now. Tara just asked about my husband. He's good. He's on quarantine. Um he was tested. We don't have the results yet. They should come any day. So, as long as his test results come back negative, then I think he's going back to Woo Wednesday to help to get ready for some kind of a Black Friday sale. How's Mama? Is Mama on here? No, Mama's not here. Gotcha. Oh, 7208. I know if we're not affiliated with one another, Venmo wants the last 4 of my phone number. 7208. Oh, that's good. Mom's good. I often think this probably seems weird in the YouTube videos later, that I'm just like randomly answering questions that nobody even knows were asked. Oh well. Wouldn't be the weirdest thing I've ever done. Okay. So another minute or so. Again, let's make sure this middle section is dry where that face is going to go. And our next step here in a minute, we get to mix flesh. Sounded creepier than I intended. Sorry. We get to mix flesh color. Okay, it's 7:35. So let's look at, thank you, Jennifer. So let's look at our original painting, and the nose of our gnome is real close to the middle of the canvas. Somewhere between the nose and the mouth is going to be right in the middle of our canvas. Okay. So I think let's start with that face. There's not much to it. That face, we're going to do like an upside down crescent moon. like an, let me do this straight, an upside down crescent moon, kind of like a big frown. And we're going to put a circle nose right in the middle of it. The biggest thing is to try to get the right flesh color. So we're going to have to do a little mixing. So find your medium brush. So I've got my medium brush. I'm going to take a tiny, tiny bit of red, just a tiny, tiny bit. And I'm going to play over here in the edge of this white. Now, with just red and white, my Santa will be very, very pink. Okay, oops, tiny, tiny, tiny bit of red over there in the edge of my white. Now, you can stay there if you want, or you can add a tiny bit of brown. I'm going to take a little, oh, that's too much, a little squish of brown and mix in there. A little more red, little white, tiny, tiny bit of brown. That little bit of brown starts to warm it up a little bit. It's still pink, but it's not as like baby pink. It's more of a I don't know, more of a warmer fleshy pink. So tiny, tiny red, tiny, tiny brown, right there in that edge of white. Okay. And now I'm going to use that, and let's put our face on there. So real close to the middle, we said the nose, between the nose and the mouth, that's going to be the middle of my canvas. So I'm going to find the middle and go up, ooh, half an inch-ish. There's a lot of ishes, half an inch-ish. And I'm going to do a frown. And then, ooh, that's pretty straight. It's kind of a frown. Okay, and fill it in. And this is just that little tiny bit, that little tiny, tiny, tiny bit of face that's peeking out between mustache and hat. I want a little more white, looking very pink. Looks like I just painted a pink banana on my canvas. Okay. Now, as I look at that, that's pretty wide. That face is really kind of small, but that's okay. I can bring my hat down and cut that face off a little bit so it's really small. So I'm making this bigger than I think it needs to be in the long term. Okay. Now I'm going to take that same color with a little tiny, tiny, tiny bit more red, tiny, tiny, tiny bit more brown, and let's put the nose on there. And that is really hard to see. We'll do some shading later. We can do some shading now. A little more brown. That's really hard to see. Let me get close. Little more brown on my brush. I might even add just a tiny bit more brown. And I always think of shading as left and bottom, left and bottom. And then I think of highlight as top and right. So let's do shading first. I'm taking a little tiny bit more brown on my brush. And I'm going on my nose, left and bottom. That was kind of aggressive, but that's okay because it's still wet. I can smooth it out. Blend it a little bit. Okay. And now because I have, and this isn't the way the original painting is, but because my brain usually says shading is left and bottom, highlight is top and right, I'm going to take, I haven't washed my brush out. I still have random pink, brown stuff on there. I'm going to take a little bit of clean white. And if shading is left and bottom, highlight is top and right. And again, we do this while that's wet because it's easier to blend. I'm not laying white on top. I'm blending white on top. Oh, cute. This is the weirdest painting ever. Oh, 7208. Thank you, Jeff. 7208. Okay. So now, again, weirdest painting ever. Thanks, buddy. Weirdest painting ever, because I'm going to leave that float there. So weird, right? My banana and my pink golf ball. I'm going to go down and work on shoes. That's going to give that a little time to dry. And again, I feel like it's too big, but I can cut it off with the hat. Okay. So I'm going to stick with my medium brush, clean it out, and let's put some shoes down there, shall we? Now the shoes, there are two different kinds. There's one that's, if you look at the original, there's one that you're looking at straight on, and then there's one that you're looking at that's sideways. I'm gonna do both, right? I'm gonna do one straight on and one sideways. So the paint that we're using, acrylic paint, water-based, water-soluble. The paint that I'm using and the paint that you got from me at the studio is student grade paint. Student grade paint is lovely because it's really inexpensive, right? I can buy it by the bucket. It's great to learn with. Student grade paint is a pain in the rump because it's really transparent, okay? If you're having a hard time, something's not covering and you just keep putting more and more paint on it, it's not you, it's the paint, okay? They essentially thin it down. They don't put as much pigment in it so they can stretch it. It goes further. You can buy more of it for cheap. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Don and Jeff. But it makes it really hard to get good coverage. So the next time you're at the art supply store, if you enjoy painting and you want to go get your own supplies and you look at paint, you'll see a tube of red for $2 and a tube of red for $20. And you're like, why am I going to spend $20 on a little tube of paint? Because that $20 tube is artist grade, it's professional grade. The pigment level is a lot higher. You can use just a little bit of it and get nice coverage. The $2 tube, however, is student grade. It's going to be very transparent, right? You're going to have to use a lot more of it. With all of that said, when we put our shoes on there, we're going to have to add either to our brown, either a little bit of black or a little bit of white. Black and white are the only two that we have on our palette that are opaque. Those are our two solids. I'm going to use both. I'm going to start with brown and a little bit of black, and then I'm going to transition to brown and a little bit of white. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to put legs on first, and my legs are just going to be short. My shoes, all told, will only be, will only be about as tall as the width of my hand. They'll only be about 4 fingers high. You can go a little higher with the legs if you want. And then if you feel your legs are too long, we'll cover it up with beard, right? Okay, so let's do legs first. Medium brush, brown. Brown's too transparent. Add a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of black. Tiny, tiny bit, not too much, tiny bit. And let's put legs on there. Okay, so my legs are probably 3-ish fingers wide. Go right down from the head. Again, make them longer than you think they need to be. I'm gonna fill that in. Brown, little bit of black. If it's too transparent, add a tiny bit more black. Now this is just the leg. I'm not putting the shoe on yet. I'll do that in a minute. And it's interesting, I can do this because I know white is opaque. White is one of my solids. I might have to use a couple, maybe 2 coats, but I know my white beard will cover that leg if it's too long, okay? Oh, learning all the things tonight, right? More than you ever wanted to know. Okay, there's one leg. I'm gonna step over here in front and put my other leg on. When I paint from the side, sometimes things get a little, wonky, they get a little crooked. Here we go. Brown, tiny bit of black. I just have 2 stumps right now, right? They just look like old tree stumps. Okay. So, okay, now that I have my dark legs on there, now I'm going to transition to brown and a little bit of white to put my shoes on. Okay. I think I'm going to rinse my brush out because I don't know how much black I have in there. I'm going to rinse that out. And do you remember I said there are 2 different kinds of shoes? The one on the left, it's a shoe that you're looking straight ahead at. And if you look at the picture, it looks like a big Hershey's Kiss. So I'm going to use some brown, some clean brown, right? So I always use out of the edge of my paint. Clean brown, a little bit of white. And I'm just seeing the toe and the front part of that shoe. So I'm going to put a big Hershey's Kiss on here. Oh, how cute is that? Needs to be a little bit whiter. So brown, a little bit of white, big chubby Hershey's Kiss. Now remember, as you do this, this is uniquely you, right? It can be solid brown. Mine has lovely streaks of white in it. I like to see all my brush strokes. So it is whatever you want it to be. There's no right or wrong here. I need to stop though. I just keep making that shoe bigger. Okay. So there's the left one. The one on the right is very sideways. So same color, brown, a little bit of white. And let's see, I think he's gonna curl out. Oh yeah. And come back in. Oh, fun, fun, fun elf shoes, fun gnome shoes. Super cute. Okay, so I might do more to these later, but I've got them on there for now. This painting at the very end, we'll go through, and on the hat, we'll do some shushes of white. We'll do some fresh white in the beard. We'll do some fresh white shushes on the shoes also. And my painting looks really weird right now. So weird, but that's okay. It's progress. Okay. Okay, let's take a few more minutes and work on those shoes, and then we're gonna head up to hat. Okay, I'm gonna get close here for a second so you can see what my shoes look like. They're nothing fancy right now, right? I can do more to them later, but I've got them on there. Okay. And who knows, the beard may cover them. The beard may completely cover them up. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna pop my brush in my water cup. Let's take a couple more minutes and play with those shoes. And I'm gonna go restart my Christmas movie. I'm looking at the original painting, trying to decide what we're going to do next. It might be first layer of beard and then hat, because we'll want that beard to dry a little bit so we can put the arms and the wreath on. I think that's what we're going to do. Beard next. First layer anyway, because my first layer of beard is going to be a light gray, because we want it to have some texture and some depth. So we're going to do a real light gray first. And then we'll be able to get those white mustache streaks in there, and they'll just pop on top of that light gray. So yes, beard next, then hat, then more beard, and then arms and wreath. Okay, so another minute or so, and we'll start on that. We'll start on that beard. Let me go restart my movie. Oh, you know what? You know what? Let's take 4 minutes. Let's go get clean water. If we're going to move on to beard, we're going to want it to be pretty clean, light gray. Let's go rinse our water cups out. So let's come back 4 minutes, We're going to want some clean white, clean brush, clean water. 4 minutes. Remember, when you get clean water, cool or cold, not warm or hot. And 3 minutes, we'll come back together. It's about 2 more minutes and we'll move on to beard. So clean brush, big brush. If you have a fan, find your fan brush. So clean brush, clean white, clean water, and we'll get ready to move on in 2 minutes. So while I have you all here, there will come a point that we'll call this painting done. It's usually around 9 o'clock. When I call the painting done, you'll have 1 hour from that time to send me either private message on Facebook or email it to me. I'll put my email in the chat and you can send your painting to me, a picture of you with your painting. And then I can put it together as a group photo. Because if we were all together at the studio, we'd get together at the far end of the studio for a group picture. But since we're not at the studio, this is a way we can do a group picture. Okay, so about 1.5 minutes, and I'm going to pop my email in the chat box so you can copy and paste it. Okay, almost time to move on. Oh, me? I'm watching Christmas Vacation again. Can you see it back there? So I'm funny about a lot of artists listen to music. We all have our routines. I'm a movie girl, but it has to be a movie I've seen 1,000,000 times. And then when I paint, I just have that running in the background. It's what makes me happy. Okay, beard it is. So let's start with our biggest brush. So find that big brush, make sure it's clean, dry them off on your paper towel. And again, for depth and texture, we want to start with a really light gray. We'll put clean white on later, but a really, really, really light gray. I'm going to use my big brush for this, but I'm going to use it skinny ways. This brush doesn't really have a skinny ways anymore, but I'm going to paint with it vertically. I'm not going to paint with it flat ways the way you normally would. I'm going to turn it and use it vertically and paint with it skinny ways. And remember, we're not going for We're not going for worms. We're not going for squiggly worms, unless you are. Mine's going to be much more flowy. Okay. So the tiniest bit of black, I'm okay if you use black that has a little bit of brown in it. That would be okay. So tiny, tiny bit though. That's too much. Tiny black and a lot of white. And let's map this out, right? It starts here under his nose, and it kind of all pulls from this place right under his nose. So skinny waist. Whew. Oh, that was fun. And then as you come out, let go, right? So you don't have a hard stop at the end. Look at all that paint I have on my brush. I have a ton of paint on there. I'm not worried about the mustache right now. So I got that flip going. Everything's coming from that middle section right there. Okay. And I'm going to go all the way down and camouflage the tops of those legs. Again, tiny, tiny bit of black. My black has a little brown in it and a lot of white. Excuse me. Now be careful if your legs and shoes are still wet. I'm getting right up underneath that nose. Now remember, this is just our first level. This is our first layer. We're going to do much more. That's the beauty of this beard mustache situation, right? It's all the different layers that we'll have. I'm sorry. He just makes me laugh right now. He's so silly. I don't know why, but he made me think of a pencil I had when I was a kid. That wait, you did this, and it went. Poof. That's kind of what he looks like. Oh, okay. Now we can clean up the bottom of the nose later, but we want to get up as close to the bottom of that nose as we can. Oh, that's fun. So fun. And I think I'm going to stop there. Again, we're not done here. We'll do more to him later. And I love, if you look at the original, he has a couple, those long beard hairs that go a little further than everybody else. So I'll put those on in white at the very end. Okay. Give that a little time to dry. Thinking about mustache, but I think I'm going to put the hat on first before I put mustache on. So I'm going to pop that brush in my water cup. Give everybody a few more minutes to get that basic level of beard on there. We don't want to take too long. We don't want to overthink it at this point, right? We just have to have that base layer. Hello, Anita. I'm glad you're here. Are you painting with us or are you just hanging out? Oh, can't paint tonight. I'm good. I'm really good. I'm glad you're here. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you stopped in. Okay, again, let's not overthink this, right? We're going to leave it alone. Oh, goodness, I'm sorry. Well, I hope you get better soon. Let's move on to hat. So, hat, we're going to start with just red. I'm going to start with my big brush. And then I'll transition to my smaller brush, my medium brush, to get the long, the point that hangs down on the hat. I'll use a smaller brush for that. But I'm gonna start with the big brush first. And I'm gonna use red and maybe a tiny, 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 tiny bit of black. I'm gonna start with red and see how I feel, because the red I know is gonna be very transparent. I'm not sure what the red's gonna look like when I put it on this green. Let's start with just red first. So red with my big brush. I think I'm gonna start, let's see, my hat. Ooh, my hat goes pretty close to the top. I'm gonna go all the way up and off. Start here. Oh, might go a little wider. Might fan that out. Go a little bit wider to the side of his face. And then start up at the same place. Be nice and skinny at the top. Get bigger as it comes down there. Okay. And then we're going to fill it in. I think I'm okay just using red. I'll shade with a little bit of black here in a minute, but just red for now. So broad strokes with the big brush. That's about all I'm going to do with the big brush. I'm going to have to move on to a smaller brush next. Okay. So that's my basic shape. And then I'm going to go to my either medium or pointy, whichever makes you happy. And then I can use that smaller brush to thin this out. Get that fun top tail on there. Oops. Oh, that's fun. Then my little heart is going to hang right off of there. And then this is kind of a mess where the hat came down to the face. Now I can use my smaller brush to put the brim on that hat. If you look at the original, there's that brim that sits right on top of his nose, right? You could just see the little peak eyes, and it curls out to the side. I think I might even go to my pointy brush for that part. I'm just using red right now. Oh, cute, cute. Do you remember earlier when I said I felt like that big pink banana that was his face? I felt like it was too big. This is the part with the brim of that hat. You can start to squish that down a little. Oh, super cute. Part of the challenge in painting is trusting the process and not getting weird halfway through, that you're like, this is not at all what I want. This is not what I think it's going to be. You just have to roll with it, right? Just keep going. And I just now got to the point that I'm like, oh, that's cute. This is going to be adorable. So again, I'm using my pointy brush, put this long tail on there, using my pointy brush to get these little curly cues out here on the brim. I'm going to move on to shading next. I want to put a little shade on that hat. Not too much, but a little. Looks pretty flat right now. So do you remember how I said on the nose, we didn't want to lay color on it when we shaded and highlighted? We wanted to lay color into it. So we had to do it while it was wet. So it may feel like I'm moving fast here, but I want to go fast so that hat is still wet, because I have one of my smaller brushes. I'm using my pointy brush. My hat is still wet. I want to shade on the left side of that hat. I don't want to lay black on it. I want to blend a little bit of black into it. Okay. And again, I'm sorry if it feels like I'm moving fast, but again, I want to do this while that hat's wet. So I have my small brush with red paint on it. I'm going to take the tiniest bit of black, tiny, tiny, tiny. And right here along this left side, I'm going to start to add a little bit of black and spread it out. It's going to be darkest on the edge, and then it's going to fade over to the right. I want to get it darker. Oops, a little more red. Tiny bit of black. I want to get it dark right here behind where that brim is going to go. That's going to help give us a little bit of a little more dimension. This brim, that little rolled brim, is going to stick forward. To help it stick forward, we have to get a little dark behind it. Okay. And then I'll add a little bit of red, maybe a little bit of white in front of it. Not now, but that's the direction I'm going. Okay. So again, red, little bit of black. And we're not laying it on, we're blending it in. I'm going to go all the way down the left side of the hat. Think about realistically, where would the shade on this hat be? Up underneath this curve, right? On the bottom side of that curve, that's going to be in shadow. If you get to the point that it's not blending in, clean your brush out, add a little bit of red. Like if I look, that got really dark right there. I'm going to clean my brush out. Got too much black in my brush. Take a little bit of red and go right back in and blend it out. We love acrylic paint because it dries fast and you can paint over it. We hate acrylic paint because it dries fast. So I'm trying to work all of this on the hat while that red is still wet, which is a challenge because it's drying fast on me. But if it dries too fast, you can cover it right back over. Okay. How'd we do? Did we all get a little bit of shade on that hat? That's adorable. That is adorable. Okay. I'll give you a few more minutes there. I feel like if I'm thinking realistically, would be a little bit of shade right underneath those curls. Just a little bit. This is one of those things you could play with forever, right? Putting your little hints of shadow. When we get real close to the end and we put little swishes of light, you can play with that forever too, right? Putting little kisses of light everywhere. But remember, you don't want to take that shade all the way down to his nose. You want to leave that little rolled red brim there. I'm going to put a little bit of white on it here in a little bit. But make sure not to take your black all the way down to the nose. Okay. I do think I'm going to clean my brush out though. I'm going to play a little bit. So while you guys play, I'm going to play too. I'm going to straighten up this brim. A little crooked. There we go. That's better. So fun. Okay, let's see. I think our next step, I'll give you a couple more minutes on that hat, but I think our next step is to put some, I think a little bit of white in the beard. And then we'll put some arms and a wreath. Yep, I want to give a little more shape to the beard next. So at this point, I'm going to leave that hat alone because if I go to start putting highlights on it, my hat's going to turn pink because my red is still very, very wet on that hat. Okay, so I'm going to leave it alone for now. I'm going to head down into the beard and play a little more. I think I'm going to go to a little smaller brush. And use some clean white. So I have a medium-ish brush with some clean white. And I think I'm going to start to map out where that mustache is going to go. So the mustache is about halfway up the side of the nose and curls right along the bottom of the hat. And I love doing this with that bright white. You can really see it now. And do you remember when I said there are some of those curls that come out past the beard? Now's the time to play with some of those, I think. So clean white right up to the nose, and it splits right down the middle. Oh, he just makes me giggle. So right up that nose, you're going to split it right in the middle, and half the mustache is going to go one way and the other half is going to go the other way. And right down in there, there's a little triangle. I'm going to put a little tiny dark spot, not right now, but I'm going to put a little tiny dark triangle. It'll be his little mouth. So make sure you're splitting that mustache right in half at the bottom of his nose. This is the part of the class where we start to get into little details. I want to remind everybody to breathe, right? If it's not going well, if you're starting to get frustrated, walk away. Because you know I'm putting this out on YouTube later. You can come back to it later. But if you're starting to get really frustrated, not worth it, right? Don't let it get super frustrating. Walk away from it. Just sit back and have a beverage and enjoy your evening and come back to it later. Now I've got that mustache on there. I'm going to take that smaller brush and I'm going to put some beard hairs in here that kind of hang out a little further than that original beard I put on. Oh, this is fun. I love that gray underneath and then that white on top gives him texture. And you see, I split my mustache right there. So I'll be able to put a little dark triangle right there, just really small. When I put his eyes on, I'll put a tiny little dark triangle right there that'll be his little mouth. Oh, I love him. He's adorable, you guys. I hope you're remembering to breathe. Let him be whatever he's going to be. All right. Keep playing in that beard for a little bit. While we're playing in that beard, it's giving our hat time to dry, right? Excited to put our little wreath on there. I guess I should ask the question, are you going to put a wreath on there? Are you going to put something else on there? Well, mine might need a coffee cup. I don't know. Maybe he needs a little sugar cookie. Oh, Starbucks cup would be super cute. He could have a little sugar cookie, some chalky milk. Uh-huh. Oops. I hope as you do your beard, you're remembering to use a lot of paint because that texture is spectacular. I have so much white paint on there and it's adding really cool like ridges in my paint and I'm getting some cool texture. Okay, another few minutes and then I think, I think we're gonna put arms and a wreath on there next. And that's giving that hat time to dry. I'm looking at the original painting and I love that his little arms are green and white striped. Oh, cute, Tawny. A green Yeti mug. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is it weird that I kind of want him to be holding a wand with like a yellow star on the end of it? I don't know why. Because it's the magic of the season, right? It's whatever you want it to be. But whatever you choose to do, remember the paint that we're using is student grade. So it's going to be very transparent. So whatever color you choose, like if I decide to do a little yellow star, which I don't know that I can because I don't know that I have yellow here with me. Oh, he could hold a present. That would be cute. Whatever you choose to do though, you have to add a little bit of white to the paint to make it solid. Remember that, okay? Okay, I'm gonna play a little more in the mustache. Like I want it to swing down here a little. And then I think we should go ahead and put arms on there. Just cleaning up around the bottom of his nose a little bit. Zoop, there we go. Okay. So now this is where we have to start guessing. We have to guess where his little arms are, right? His little arms are, they appear to be in the original painting. They start straight down below the curve on the hat. So that little whoopy curve, they start straight down from there. I'm probably gonna have to move mine in a little bit. And whatever it is that your little gnome is holding, it's gonna be right there in the middle of that whole mess of beard. So he's holding, in the original painting, he's holding a wreath. So that's what I'm gonna do, I think. I'm gonna try to stick with that original. And I think I'm gonna map this out in white because I'll be able to see my brush strokes. But if it goes sideways, I can just turn it back into beard. Okay. Because if I map it out in green or I map it out in a color, it's going to be really hard to hide that in the beard if it goes wrong. So I'm going to continue on with this medium brush and white and map it out here. I don't know why I'm picking that up. I'm going to set that down. Okay, so his little arms start, like his little upper arms start below those curves in the hat. Think about where his shoulders might be, right? And whatever it is he's holding, it's right here in the middle. I think I'm going to start there. He's holding a wreath. So I'm going to start here with the circle that will be the wreath. And again, I'm doing it in white because it's going to be real easy for me to get rid of it if it goes sideways. I feel like that might need to come down a little lower. And now once I have that thing that he's holding, I can bring his arms to it. Again, in white. That. That. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Cute. I know it's hard to see, but I've got the thing he's holding, and this is his arms. I'm going to put the wreath in, and then I'm going to put a mitten, his little mitten hands on top, holding the wreath. Okay. Okay. This is lovely too, because you can camouflage the top part of his arms because they're just peeking out from his beard mustache. You can just camouflage the tops of those with beard mustache, right? Zoop. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put a wreath on there. Now that I know where things are living, filling his little arms in. I'll put green stripes on him here in a minute. The easiest way to do a wreath, use one of your small, if that's what you're going to do, use one of your smaller brushes. And I'm going to use just green. I'm going to get close here. And I'm going to go at the bottom here around this circle. And I'm going to put that brush down and pull in. I'm going to go around that circle. Not putting a whole heck of a lot of effort into it because our brain will tell us that's what it is. Little green circle there. If you look at the original painting, it doesn't look like a whole heck of a lot. But those little green swishes, and our brain tells us that's a wreath he's holding, especially if I decide to put a little bow on it later. Okay. There we go. Okay. And I know I'm going to put red, I think red mittens on him. So while I have that green on my brush, I'm going to go ahead and put some little green stripes on his arms. He needs little green stripy sleeves. I'm going to let that sit for a minute before I put mittens on. Cute. Cute. In the end, when we put little bits of white highlights, I can do a little outline on those sleeves, little outline on his mittens that I'm going to put on. Because right now it kind of looks like a mess, but the white lines we do at the end will help define things. Okay. Okay, let's see, mittens. Little mittens. Red. Mitten. Little thumb. Thumbs up, right? That's how he would hold things. Have his little thumbs up. And my red is mixing with that green a little, so my mittens are a little purpley. I'm okay with that, actually. That's cute. I like that little purpley color. Go to the other mitten. Thumbs up. Cute. Cute. Okay. Again, I can add a little structure to it later. Ooh, candy cane. I just saw your comment about holding a candy cane. That would be super cute. Okay. So I'm gonna walk away from all of this right now. I'm gonna leave that dry a little bit. So then at the end, I can put little shushes of white. Okay. And if I decide to put a bow on there, I can. I don't know that I'm going to. I might actually play in the wreath a little more and get some different shades of green. Maybe some green and a little bit of white. And just keep playing in that wreath a little. Yeah, see, I like that. I don't know that I'm going to do a bow. Okay. Oh, you guys, we're getting there. So we're starting to get down to details, right? I'm going to take my small brush, my pointy brush, and I love that there's a little heart that hangs right there on the end of his hat. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with a little bit of white. White, a little heart right there. Cute. I feel like everything else has a curve on it. I feel like the heart needs a little curve on the tail. There we go. And I'm going to stick with that white on my brush. I'm going to stick with that and start to do some little highlight lines. So when you do your little highlight lines, when you do your little outlines, remember, you're not outlining the entire thing. It's very hit and miss. So I've got white on my pointy brush, and I'm going to come down there and let go. Maybe a little bit of highlight there and let go. Maybe a little there. Not highlighting everything. Just little pieces every now and again. Little on right here in this curve. Maybe a little on top of that one. Oh, I need to go across that brim, right? We shadowed, so now we need to highlight that curl, that curled brim to help pop it forward. Oh, that's cute. That's super cute. I think I'm going to head down to the shoes now and do some little highlights on those shoes. Highlight that little curl. Remember, there's no right or wrong here. Those little bits of white that you put on there, just add a little bit to it, right? I highlighted his nose when I painted it, but I think I might add a little white right there on the top of his nose. Just a little. So again, you can continue to play with that, with all those fun little swishes of white. I want to do a little highlighting here around his hands and around his arms, but that's still wet, so I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to leave it alone for now. I want to put some polka dots on his hat, I think. I love that that's in the original, little polka dots on his hat. To do polka dots, I'm going to go to my big brush and use the other end of it. Go in the white. That's a really easy way to get the same size polka dots all over. When I'm done with polka dots on the hat, I'm gonna do the same thing for his eyes, right? But in, I don't know if I'm gonna use dark brown or black. I might use black, but use the end of your brush to get those perfect little dots. Okay. Okay. Need to stop before I get too many polka dots on there. Okay. So I've got, let's see. I still want to do some little highlights around his sleeves and around his little mittens, but that's still wet. So I'm going to go ahead. I've cleaned my brush off, my big brush. I'm going to go ahead and put his eyes in there. Now his eyes are real close to the top of his nose. They're real close right in there. I'm trying to decide if my big brush is too big. I might go to a smaller brush, because I'm afraid once I have giant black blobs in there for eyeballs, that's going to be hard to undo. So I think I'm going to move to a smaller brush, but I'm still using the other end of it. Okay, let's see. So right there, close to the top of his nose, the brim of his hat, there's one eyeball. Let me get close here. Whoop. One eyeball. And the other eyeball right there. Oh, cute. Oh, that's super cute. And don't forget, we need to do that little bit of mouth right there. I think I'm going to continue to use the end of my brush and just scratch a little bit on there. It's just a tiny little triangle. There you go. Cute, cute, cute. Makes me happy. Okay, let's see, you guys, we're getting there, right? It's all in the details now, right? And it's all about however much time you want to spend playing and putting little details. There are a couple things I'm going to do before I call it. I'm going to go back to my big brush that I started with. I'm going to clean that out and dry it off. And I want him to look like he's in the snow, walking in the snow maybe. I'm going to take a tiny bit of white on that big brush, just a little bit. And I want to do a little bit of white shushing right down here on the ground. So it looks like there's snow on the ground, right? Just a little bit. Without that, he almost looks like he's floating. And I think this helps set him down just a little. There we go. Little shushes. Again, details. It's all about however much time you want to spend in your details. So I'm just going to keep going here. Got a little white shushing down there. I'm going to go to the tiniest bit of black with my pointy brush. Got black now. I might do a little outline on this heart. Just like I did on the white, though. It's not going to be a perfect outline. But it's going to be the idea of just like that. Not perfect, but that little bit of dark on it really helps define it, I think. You could even use that little bit of black on your pointy brush. You could use that. If we use the white for little white shushy highlights, you could use the black for little shushy shadows, right? So around the bottom of his shoes, we might have some dark lines there. I don't know, I might even use the dark to outline his arms a little. And his mittens. I was going to use white, but I think I like the black. That's a judgment call you get to make. But I think I like that little bit of black on his arms and his mittens. Ooh, am I bold enough to do a little here on his hat? What the heck, right? Just a little bit right there on that bottom edge. Oh, I'm kind of feeling like I might be done. Oh, I love this. He's adorable. He's so cute. I can't wait to see all of yours. I can't wait to see how you did with him. He's super cute. Now, if you look at the original painting, you can see all the detail. They spent a lot of time putting a lot of detail and really, really playing with it. So you play as long as you want, right? Don't forget, we'll call this done at 9. Don't forget, you have until 10 p.m. to either private message me or email the studio. Email me at the studio a picture of you with your painting. I would love to see that. Okay. And then all the pictures that I have at 10 p.m., I'll collage them together and put them out on Crooked Door Studio Facebook and Instagram so you can see everybody's painting. Because isn't that the best part, is seeing how everybody did with theirs, how they did theirs separately, how everybody took a different take. Okay. I keep looking at my painting because I can see myself. He's adorable. He just makes me happy. So you keep playing. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and give you the opportunity to unmute yourself and chat a little bit if you want. So as I end the recording, I just want to say thank you for joining me. Oh, last thing. When you are done, don't forget to sign your painting, right? That's where I talked about it in the beginning. That's where my paint pen comes in handy. So artists usually sign bottom left or bottom right, usually. Some artists would sign like right here around the edge of the shoe. That would be fun, right? You could sign on the shoe so it blends in right there. You can sign on the back if you want with a paint pen or a Sharpie. Never here. always out here. You don't want it to bleed through. If you sign here, it could bleed through the canvas to the front. Okay. So I don't know that I'm going to sign mine yet because I don't know that I'm done. I feel like I'm going to play a little more with that wreath. Maybe do little white highlights on his mittens, but his mittens are still wet. So for now, I will call mine done. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll go ahead and stop the recording here. Thank you guys. This was good tonight. This was a lot of fun. Thanks.